Hey everyone, and welcome. Let's jump right into today's explainer because honestly, this one is something we all really need to hear. Today, we're unpacking a truly powerful homily by Father Joel Jomerchesis Gattus. Look, if you've been feeling, just overwhelmed lately, stretched way too thin, or just totally burnt out by the constant grind of modern life, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to visually break down the core message of his homily and really focus on how we can find genuine, spiritual, and practical direction when we're just feeling lost in all the noise.
To kick things off, Father Gattus starts with this fascinating and honestly deeply relatable story. Picture this. A priest is walking down the street and notices a beggar who's just limping heavily. The guy looks like he's in terrible pain, right? Struggling with literally every single step. So naturally, the priest assumes the man is badly injured. But as he gets closer, he realizes, wait a second, the man isn't hurt at all. The reason he's limping so badly is that he's wearing one single, beautiful shoe that he found in the trash. He liked it so much, he just put it on, even though he didn't have the matching pair. And now, he's walking completely unevenly, just hoping to one day find the other shoe. And this right here perfectly frames our central question. Why are you struggling so much? Like, are you actually in pain, or are you just wearing something that doesn't fit?
He drives this home with such a striking point. Not everything you find is for you. It's a simple statement, but wow, it hits hard. The core problem highlighted in that beggar's story is that, our sheer exhaustion in life, it often doesn't actually come from a lack of things. It comes from holding on to things, or relationships, or opportunities that were literally never meant for us in the first place. Just because a shoe looks nice in the trash doesn't mean you should wear it. We just needlessly burden ourselves by carrying weights that simply don't belong to us.
To really ground this idea, the homily points us to three parables from the Gospel of Matthew. First up, the hidden treasure in a field, which represents those beautiful, totally unexpected blessings God drops into our lives. Then, the pearl of great price. This reminds us that sometimes finding what's truly valuable requires a deliberate, intentional search. And third, the sorting net. This one is all about pulling everything in and then carefully separating the good from the bad. Basically, these parables show the biblical foundation of seeking out, finding, and intensely curating what actually holds value in our lives.
So from those parables, Father Gattus distills this brilliant roadmap of 3 actionable steps to help us overcome modern burnout and receive God's grace. Step 1, find what matters. Step 2, give it your all. And step 3, guard what matters. Let's dive right into these steps and see how they build on each other.
So, step 1, find what matters. Okay. In a world that is just overflowing with daily distractions, notifications buzzing, endless demands on our time, identifying what's actually important can be, incredibly difficult. The homily uses this really beautiful image from nature to help us out here, the egret, or the tagak. If you've ever seen one of these white birds in a pond, you know they can stand perfectly still in the water for hours. I mean, they barely move. Someone watching might think the bird is just lazy or doing nothing, but actually, the egret is preserving its energy. It completely ignores all the little ripples and the tiny fish swimming by its legs. It's waiting with absolute patience for the big fish.
And this brilliantly illustrates our own lives. Think about it. Are you spending all your energy darting after small fish? The petty arguments, the workplace gossip, worrying about what complete strangers think of you on social media. If you chase every tiny fish, you're going to end up absolutely exhausted and honestly, still starving. So the crucial point here is to be like the egret. Conserve your limited daily energy for the big fish, your relationship with God, your family, your true purpose. Let the trivial stuff just swim on by.
All right, moving to step 2, give it your all. Once you've finally identified those big fish, we have to look at how we actually deploy our energy. To explain this, Father Gattus shares this fascinating observation about one of the greatest soccer players ever, Lionel Messi. Sports analysts have watched his games and noticed something kind of incredible. For about 80% of a match, Messi is literally just walking. Yeah, walking. While all the other players are sprinting, fighting, clashing over the ball, Messi is just strolling around. Early on, coaches used to get frustrated, thinking he was being lazy. But when they actually analyzed his eye movements, they realized he was scanning the field hundreds of times. He was observing, planning, and waiting for the exact right moment. And when that moment finally came, he struck with explosive, unstoppable force.
Now, contrast this with how we usually live. Most of the time, we're just constantly rushing blindly. We wear our busyness like it's a badge of honor, right? But we just end up stressed out and entirely directionless. We are running after every single ball on the field.
On the flip side, we have the messy approach, observing, planning, and applying highly focused effort only when it truly counts.
Which leads us to a very uncomfortable but totally necessary question. Where are you spending your energy? The homily challenges us with a scenario that, let's be real, we are all probably guilty of. Do you give 100% of your absolute best energy to your work, to your boss, or maybe even to impressing total strangers online? You're so polite, so giving, so all out for them. But then, you come home to your own family, the people who actually matter, and you have nothing left. You're grumpy, you're drained, you're impatient. Listen, if you give your best to the world and your leftovers to your family, your strategy is completely backwards. You need to invest your energy where the true returns actually are.
And that brings us to step 3, guard what matters.
Because it's not enough to just find the treasure and invest in it. We have to fiercely protect our spiritual and mental wealth from being stolen. There's this profound truth we always have to remember. When you say yes to one thing, you automatically say no to something else. Our time and energy are finite. So saying yes to a vice, that automatically means saying no to your peace. Saying yes to laziness means you're saying no to your dreams. Saying yes to a sin means saying no to holiness. Every single choice is a trade-off, so we've got to guard our yeses incredibly closely.
Father Gatuez shares a really heartbreaking encounter to highlight exactly this. A woman came to his parish who was terribly ill. She had a tumor in her throat, wore a mask, had a feeding tube. She couldn't even speak. She had to communicate by typing on her phone. She handed the phone to the priest, and on it she explained that a fortune teller had predicted she would fall into massive debt, get violently ill, and her own children would turn against her. This poor woman was absolutely terrified because the predictions seemed to actually be coming true.
The priest looked at her and realized her profound suffering wasn't just physical. She was holding on to a curse. She was waking up every single day, rereading those negative predictions on her phone, and literally planting seeds of fear and anxiety in her own mind. So his advice was immediate and very practical. Delete the message. Erase it right now. Instead, he told her to write down 3 things she is grateful to God for every single day. She needed to let go of that curse and tightly hold on to God's promises of peace and faith.
And this brings us to such a beautiful definition of what faith actually looks like in practice. Faith is planting God's promises in your mind and heart, knowing that whatever you keep inside forms your life. Whatever you allow to take root in your heart is exactly what's going to grow. Think about it. If you plant fear, you grow panic. If you plant faith, you grow peace. You absolutely have to guard the soil of your heart by holding tightly to Christ above all else.
As we wrap up this explainer, we're reminded of the illusion of earthly wealth. Father Canitas shares a quick anecdote about visiting an elderly man who had this massive warehouse, just completely filled with beautiful, expensive plates and silverware. When the priest admired them, the old man just sighed and said, "Father, this is all just trash." At the end of his life, he realized he'd spent his time hoarding things that he absolutely could not take with him to the next life. It wasn't a blessing anymore, it was a heavy burden.
Which leaves us with this final, lingering challenge. What will you leave behind for your family? Are you spending your one precious life hoarding plates in a warehouse, wearing unmatched shoes from the trash, and just chasing every tiny little fish in the pond? Or are you building a true spiritual legacy? I really want you to think about that today. Take a moment to evaluate your own life, find what truly matters, give it your absolute all, and guard it fiercely. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in